tried to figure out that everybody would have equal time, and we may be able to find time someplace, but right now, every candidate will be asked to present 5 minutes, and if we don't know you, then you'll have to tell us a little bit about yourself in those 5 minutes. And then in the next 5 minutes, we have questions that we've solicited with the index cards, and we ask you to answer those questions, please. Now, the next district is the 25th Assembly District. Mr. Abe Fuchs, a Republican, is here. Ms. Nily Rozic, a Democrat, is here. Is Mr. Garofeld here? No, he would be from the Conservative Party. Jerry Ionesi from the Independent Party. Okay, we'll operate the same way. We're good on time. So, do I extend a little more time? Do you want to extend a couple more minutes each?
Well, we got to keep track.
Yeah, we definitely want to be out by, I would say, we should definitely be finished by 4:15 because it's now 8:05. We've never been going so well. So let's do the 5-minute, 5-minute, and then if we have more time, we could squeeze in maybe another question or two. Okay? So, Mr. Fuchs, I'm happy to introduce you. Mr. Abe Fuchs, representing the Republican Party in the district. That's 25th District, Assembly District.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate being here, and I give credit for the Auburndale Improvement Association. I think it's a great credit to provide information and education to the public. I think it's really important. You know, we talk about corruption in Albany and how things don't work. The idea is to get good people in there and to find out what they stand for and to find out what they're really about before everything goes haywire. I was born in Washington, D.C. I came to New York when I was 15 to go to religious school. I went on to, well, that was in Forest Hills. I went on to a seminary after that, and did a little bit of college. I really wanted to go to work, so I took up bookkeeping, and I worked for a few years for doing that. And then I was called by the Postal Service. I worked there for 25 years. I'm a retired Postal Service worker. I also, since 1989, invested in real estate, and I renovated 6 properties. I say that because when people ask me community involvement, I think that bettering and enhancing neighborhoods is quite a worthy endeavor. The things that I stand for, yeah, I get back to education. I think there are things well, education in general, it can be so transformative. For 50 years, we've been trying to figure out what to do with poor quality in our public schools. I know this district, this area is doing pretty well, but the idea of vouchers, freeing up education to private schools. There's a lot of innovation going on with technology. CARP DM in Arizona, wonderful results. There's no reason why we should be breaking our heads trying to figure out things that the private industry and entrepreneurs and innovators and educators can figure out. And also, of course, there's so much waste, $18,000 that New York State pays per pupil. The Archdiocese charges $4,000 for elementary, $7,000 for high school. And I don't understand the argument why we don't free up education for competition. There's also character development that I'm very big on. That goes back to my seminary years. I think that today's kids, I hate to sound like an old fogey, but I mean, things are out of control with the bullying, with the violence, the throwing out food and claiming that they're hungry. You know, I mean, the fact is that religion has taken a back seat in our society, and somebody has to take up the slack, and there should be character development training in all schools. Private schools usually do that anyway, and if they don't, then we should institutionalize that. And then there's vocational training. We got away from it because for some reason we thought everybody has to be an Indian chief. No, there's some people who really enjoy and excel at doing basic things, vocations. I benefited from city training in terms of bookkeeping. There are many things. I spoke to an educator. He said the same thing, that the public school system kind of fell apart when they pushed everybody towards academics, and they didn't realize the particular niche of what each kid has. So those are the basic planks of my platform.
You have a minute, maybe a minute or quarter, whatever, to wait to the question.
Okay, sure.
I'm going to wait till he finishes the question before I...
Well, since we've asked everybody so far about hydrofracking, what is your position on that issue?
Okay, we've been doing hydrofracking for 50 years. It's true that now, since we're doing horizontal, it's more complicated. Obviously, when you have the beginning of an industry, the stages are sloppy and they're without regulation. We've been studying this in New York State for 4 years. There have been reports by the Department of Environmental Conservation, the GEIS report, the General Environmental Impact Statement, 2009, 2011. Right now we're waiting for the Commissioner of Health to determine the effects of those findings on populations, what would happen. So basically, I'm not a scientist. There's no reason for me to guess what the findings will be. But in general, Andrew Cuomo is favorable to it, and Barack Obama, President Barack Obama is favorable to it. This is something that we have to work out. The idea that we should politicize it, as Mr. Kincannon says, is not the idea. We should let scientific inquiry rule the day. And by the way, I'm old enough, and I'm sure some of you are old enough to know from the late 70s that people were protesting nuclear power, and as if that was something unnatural. Well, now the world has taken on nuclear power as a given. So hydrofracking is here to stay. It's just a matter of working out exactly the regulations, and we shouldn't be sloppy with it, that's for sure. Regulation is very important.
Mr. Fuchs, would you vote for mayoral control of New York City public schools? Why or why not?
Well, it's already in effect. There is mayoral control. The way it was before is that everybody was shirking responsibility. It's like, whose fault is it? Is it yours? No, it's his. You go to him. Is it his? No, it's his. So in that case, I mean, especially with the UFT, I think I've worked for a union for 25 years, but post office is self-sustaining. We didn't ask anybody for any money. Right now, the post office is under the congressional supervision and with unrealistic pre-funding of health care. That's the only reason that you hear anything bad about the post office. But the idea is that the UFT is basically out of control with their political power, and the only way to counter that kind of behemoth is with mayoral control.
Mr. Fuchs, next question. One of the major problems in most city residential neighborhoods is the problem of overdevelopment. What would you do to protect the character of our communities?
I absolutely respect the integrity of neighborhoods. I think, as someone said to me, when you buy a house in a neighborhood, you're buying the neighborhood also. You're not just buying a house. If you took that house in a different neighborhood, you may not buy it. So there's no question that neighborhoods have to maintain the integrity of that neighborhood, and I mean, to a certain extent, you can modify certain things, but to put in a McMansion into a basically quiet, small residential neighborhood is not right.
Next question. Why do you think the voters should cast their ballot for you instead of any one of your opponents?
I think the idea is to give the power to the people. For instance, in education, we've been holding on to that for too long with no good results to show for it. Let the people show what can be done with education as is being done in Arizona with Carpe Diem. And otherwise, small business, of course, you need regulation, but you cannot strangle them with regulation. We need to squeeze out the excess of government, not to grow government. We need to grow private enterprise.
Okay, the next question. We received several questions that really are federal related rather than state related. But this
I'll play along.
This one says, Senator Gillibrand states she was instrumental in changing the rules to stop Congresspeople from engaging in insider trading. And it goes on to say all the benefits Congresspeople get. On a state basis, how would you control what state officials earn, what benefits that they get? Do you believe in campaign financing by the public?
Okay, well, as far as what people get, I mean, I think salaries should be reasonable. I don't think that the state legislature should get a raise now above $79,000. And as far as campaign finance, I have a particular kind of novel idea that the whole petition process should be eliminated. I heard this somewhat based on somebody who came to lecture at political clubs. His name is Marty Decom, and he says that well, the idea there is people should give a basic fee towards establishing a candidacy. Let the government compile profiles and information about different candidates. Then that can be rolled into a primary. I think that the government actually should take on the responsibility of mailing things out to the citizens. It's a government job, by the way, after all. So let the government mail things out, disseminate information, put things on their website, and provide forums like this. A thing like this should be sponsored by the government because education is part of the democratic method.
Okay, I'd also like to ask you the question about the nonprofit situation. The situation is that they have not been funded for the last 3 years, and a lot of them are in danger of going under. They provide very important services to the community. How would you, as a new state assembly person, handle the situation?
Do I go on?
Yes.
Okay. Well, nonprofits, absolutely. Nonprofits serve an essential role in society. They're kind of like the arm of government, where government really is not that effective. And it's a matter, again, of like Mr. Concanon said, transparency in government, seeing that the government does not waste what it's doing so that there should be left over for things that really are essential for communities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
The next candidate for the 25th Assembly District is Ms. Nily Rozic from the Democratic. We'll follow the same format. Thank you. So
Fresh Meadows Homeowners Association. I know what great work civic associations do, and on a very busy night, I know that it takes a lot to get you out here. So thank you for being here. I want to thank Mr. Euler and Terry for having us and hosting us. For many of your familiar faces, I just want to say hello again, and then tell you a little bit more about myself if I haven't knocked on your door or called you 10 times before the primary. So I'm Nily Rozic. I grew up in Fresh Meadows on 74th Street, so not too far away. I was actually born in Israel, but moved to the community when I was very young with my entire family, and went to local schools in the neighborhood, including Townsend Harris High School, where I'm still very involved in mentoring students, and I sit on the Alumni Association board, doing career days and making sure that students are not only prepared for college, but also the workplace and life after. I sit on Community Board 8, where I work on education issues, transportation issues, a lot of land use issues, and as much as we can get away with in Parkland as well. I'm very proud of the work that I've done there. I'm happy to answer any questions about when I work on the community board. I've spent my entire professional life working in public service. I actually had a teacher at Townsend Harris High School who sat me down and just said one day, it's one thing to identify our problems in the world, whether it's your pothole or larger immigration issues, but it's really another thing to go out into the world and solve the problems. That is something that marinated in my brain for a while, and I went off to NYU where I studied political science and went straight into public service. I worked in the state assembly for many, many years, and like many people in public service, worked my way up. So I was a scheduler, then a legislative director, and spent many years as the chief of staff to an Assemblymember, working on expanding Parkland and making Albany a little more open and transparent, public safety and consumer affair issues. You name it, I've probably worked on it, and I am hoping to continue all of that as the next state assemblywoman from the 25th Assembly District. Now the district is a little different, just to give you some background. It runs all the way from South Flushing to Fresh Meadows, Hillcrest, Auburndale, parts of Bayside Hills, and all the way out to Douglaston, actually. So it is vastly different than the old 25th Assembly District, and I'm happy to say that it actually includes a little bit more of Auburndale this time around. I want to continue all of the good work that I've done on women's health and Parkland issues. Definitely want to continue a lot of work on public safety and making our government more accountable to all of y'all and all of us. With that, I think I will take questions.
Okay, we'll also ask you about hydrofracking. What is your position?
So I've worked on hydrofracking as an issue since we first started talking about it at the state level in 2008. I wrote a paper that we submitted to DEC that was over 7,000 words with a litany of complaints. We just don't know enough. And that is why DEC has gone back to the drawing board and has said, we don't know enough, we want to do more. I personally am against hydrofracking. I believe in a moratorium. I believe that we don't know enough. Like Senator Ovella said before, you can go, I don't know if any of you have seen Gasland, but if you haven't, you should watch it. You can go to Pennsylvania and light someone's sink on fire. That is just something that is really terrifying to me personally as a homeowner and someone who believes in clean water and clean air. We certainly don't know enough about the toxins that go into the water, that stay in it, how that gets transported out, what they do with it afterwards. There are a lot of question marks. And so I'm not comfortable saying that hydrofracking is the answer for New York State. I also believe that this is a great opportunity for us to be talking about alternative energies, solar energy, wind energy. If we're actually going to go to the drawing board roll up our sleeves and think about energy in New York State, we should be dreaming big and really solving our issues.
Ms. Rosic, do you support the granting of tenure for teachers? Why or why not?
So my mom is a U of T member, and I'm very proud of the work that she's done and all of the benefits that I received over the years through the U of T. I definitely believe in tenure for teachers, and I've been supported by the U of T and many other unions who know that I'm going to go up to Albany and be a champion for them. I'm going to go to work and actually deliver results to them.
Okay, I'll ask a similar question to a question that we asked Mr. Fuchs. One of the major problems in most city residential neighborhoods is the problem of overdevelopment. What would you do to protect the character of our communities?
That's a great question, and it affects all of us, especially in Flushing Heights and Fresh Meadows. You've seen all these McMansions going up. You've seen developers come in and really try to change the character of our neighborhoods. I really believe that community boards play a big role in fighting back overdevelopment. Whether it's saying in Fresh Meadows there was a rumored hotel that was supposed to go up, and we actually fought back against it and saying that's not what Fresh Meadows wants. That's not what fits our character and our neighborhood. So I really believe in working together as a community to say that overdevelopment doesn't work for Eastern Queens.
Thank you. One of the questions we received has also to do with federal issues. People are very concerned about Medicare, Social Security, and even Medicaid. Is there anything that you, as a state legislator, could do to preserve those programs?
The one thing that I've taken away from my time working in the state assembly is that a lot of it has to do with relationship building and coalition building. I cannot wait to go to Albany to work with my legislative colleagues on these broad issues. Especially the federal issues, I'm going to work with our next Congresswoman, Grace May, to make sure that we are really representing Eastern Queens and our communities. So that's really what it takes.
Okay, why do you think the voters should cast their ballot for you instead of any one of your opponents?
So there are many, many reasons, and I will just name a couple of them. I offer a new perspective, a fresh voice, to really go to Albany and say, Eastern Queens doesn't wait in line. I'm here to work with people on behalf of our community and to really say whether you're trying to bring capital dollars from the MTA to expand bus service or just expansion of parkland, to really fight the good fight and deliver results for Eastern Queens. And just for many of the women in the audience, a little known fact is that Queens has actually lost 4 Assemblywomen in the past couple of cycles. And it's really, really important that we return, reverse that equation a little bit, and that is what I offer, what I'm trying to do. I bring years of experience working in the Assembly as a public servant, and I really want to continue all of that on behalf of the community that I grew up in and that I hope to stay in. So that's the differential between me and my two.
And also, we'd like to know your position on the MTA proposal to raise fares. How can we protect the fares for working class people?
So Senator Ravella pointed out, a couple of the ways that we've been really trying to help the MTA at the state level, whether it's the lockbox legislation or the payroll tax, which I too hope that the courts will reverse and hopefully we can keep that going. It is so important to keep fares affordable. I know what it was like to take a bus to 2 trains, an hour and a half to work, an hour and a half back. To visit one of my brothers, it takes a half hour, almost 2:30. So I know how important bus service and transit is to our community. I'm going to do everything I can to work on keeping our service affordable, The other thing I want to mention is that we're going to have a great opportunity in a couple of years to really hold the MTA accountable on their capital budget. You know, the capital budget is every 5 years brought up. We're going to have hearings about it in the Assembly and in the Senate. And I really want to go to Albany, sit on the Corporations Committee, ask those tough questions, and really say, you know, Eastern Queens doesn't get capital money. Why is that? And we really need to bring some of that resource back into our neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.